Okay, I guess I'm rolling now. One of the times I remember my whole family knew, and I know that prison guards are going to vibe with this. Uh, Twos and fours, fours and eights. When you start off working in prison, you go downstate or you go east, depending on where, or you go west, depending. Anyway, you usually have to leave your home for a set number of time, a year, 2 years. There are people who are lucky enough to get in and go straight home to their home jails, but that wasn't me. I was out downstate for 2 years, and I was in a great prison. Come to find out, it was my favorite prison that I ever worked with, and even more than Auburn, Woodburn was just a chill, relaxed prison. But when I was down there, I was doing fours and eights. A lot of guys will do twos and fours because, but so what that is we do swapping in prison. So I work your shift, you work my shift, and so I'll go down there and work a bunch of your shifts. I'll work for 4 days. Excuse me. I'll work for 4 days, your shift and my shift, 4 16-hour days, and then we get our two RDOs, and then you work my 4 days, and then two more RDOs. So I work 4 16-hour days and go home for eight, right? Seems awesome. But one of the days that you're home, the last day, like when you wake up on your eighth day and you know you have to go into 416s, it was known in my house. Don't talk to dad. Like, dad, me, Captain Happy, don't, I was miserable just thinking. And I remember talking to guys, this is a huge thing among us. And I really didn't understand what, like, that was a whole day. I was miserable and dreading going to work. But I did it so I could have 8 days off. And your first day is recovery. So it's more like 6 and 6 because you work those 4 days away from your family, just grinding out in prison, and you're just prison mindset. You're in prison. And Woodburn was a great place to be in prison, man. It was coffee and donuts and bullshit and cards and playing and laughing. We just kind of kept one eye on the inmates. But I think I never had to use the force while I was at Woodburn, and the inmates just kind of took care of themselves. You would be the second officer, and you would go down and you would get a cup of coffee for your first officer, unless he was a regular and it was his post because he had his own coffee machine. But it was just you and another no timer filling in because a lot of times these guys would take their time off together because they become partners, and it was a big safety net in prison to work with people you knew. I don't just mean like I know a lot of guys like, oh yeah, so you could do bad things. No, man, just so you can survive. And whatever. If you were two guys that did bad things and you were two guys that did bad things, if you're two guys that just wanted peace and quiet and you maintained a solid dorm and you just want when so and so's on, I'm gonna have a good night, and then it's if you don't know who's gonna be there, it's a random throw of the dice. And if you know certain people on there, it's going to be a long freaking night, right? So you get your crew and little cliques develop, and they're not necessarily well run but they all get the same mind of how they want to work together, and they can't stand working with other people. And so, anyways, if you go in there and it's another new guy, another resource officer, resource is the term for an officer that can go. You walk in and they say, "Oh, you're going to be here this week. You're going to be here today." You're a resource officer. You get plugged in where you're needed, right? So, but down in Woodburn, there was a guy's job in Woodburn who had to go to the arsenal and get the keys to the employee dining room and open it up and make coffee at lunchtime. I don't know if it's breakfast too. I think breakfast too. I don't remember. But you would go down and you would get a cup of coffee. The union, the one of the few places the union succeeded. The union, you would go down and the union would buy the coffee and they would make coffee, and officers would come get cups of coffee and bring it back to their dorms or their block because they had blocks and dorms at Woodburn, whatever. Um, Wonderful place to work. Loved the job, but I was doing. Uh, I got lucky when I got down there and I walked into the package room. The package room officer left. He transferred home, and the one that was there wanted somebody, didn't want to lose his swaps. And I told my very first Christmas away from home, I said, I'll take that bid because I didn't want to be a package room officer. It's like one of the only jobs in Woodburn that actually worked. And I told him I would take that bid if he gave me Christmas off, and he did. So him and I went right straight. I went to Woodburn right straight into fours and eights, but I worked 11 to 7, 7 to 3, which is called a suicide shift because you work all night and uh, then you work 7 to 3, and it just totally throws you off. Most people work the 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and then you sleep during the day. I didn't like that. I liked 11 to 7, 7 to 3, because you wake at 3 o'clock, it's a 2 hour drive home, you have dinner with your family, and you're done. So it's like you get an extra day almost. And I liked the package room because you worked, you stayed busy all day. And I went in and I said, I told him I would stick with it if I kept Christmas off, so he gave me Christmas off, and I went to the fours and eights. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is I had a great job. I loved my swap partner. He's a nut job, but uh, it walked right into swaps with Christmas off. My first Christmas, I was like, bam, win, win, win. However, that being said, as much as I love that job and I love that jail and I love the people at that jail, honestly, most of them are all foggy in my memory now. Sorry, guys, that my memory's trash. I remember you were awesome, but I don't remember working there. I remember certain other stories, but anyways, so I uh, I would get so angry and just miserable the day before I had to go do my fours and eights. Just freaking miserable. And it's a well known. I'd love to see guys that can talk about it because I know that my buddies are watching this. A lot of you don't realize there are a lot of guys, my prison buddies, my jail guys. They don't want to anywhere near this. They're not going to comment. You see my buddy Matt. He's a nut job. He's going to comment on everything. And Jamie's retired. But, a lot of guys are watching this. They don't want their names anywhere near this. But I'd like to see how many guys would throw their throw a like in there or throw a comment in there for me if you feel this. Uh, completely feel this. It's common. So I just want to tell that story. I know guys out there feel it, and that's one of the good things. I don't know. It freed you up. It gave you so much control over your time that it was a really good thing. But boy, going back for four doubles or eight doubles, the day before was miserable. That was the good thing about fours and eights. Like twos and fours, you only had to go 2 days. I don't know. I don't think I felt it as bad as twos and fours, but I didn't do twos and fours until I was back at Auburn. But 4 16s and 8 days off. The 8 days was wonderful, and the 4 days was hell. And it was 2 years of that shit. Um, and then I went to real jails, or a real jail. So, anyways, guys, do me a favor if you felt that, like and comment, share, whatever. Um, I love you all. Merry Christmas. I know that one's going to hit with my officers. I don't know if it goes big publicly, but I know it's going to hit with officers.